Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about magnet fishing. Now right out the bat, if you don't know what magnet fishing is, it's very simple. You're going to have a rope, you're going to have a magnet, and you're going to throw it off a bridge or off the side of a body of water, and you're going to retrieve it. And usually when you pull it up, you can find things like guns, pocket knives, scrap metals, antiques, whatever you name it. So this is going to be your ultimate guide to how to magnet fish. We're going to cover everything from gear to location to how to clean your finds, how to find good spots, how to target what you want to find, and anything else is going to be covered in this video. If you're a beginner, a hobbyist, looking to make extra income, want to search for treasure, anything like that, this video is going to be for you. So whether you've done a little bit of magnet fishing or you haven't had any, stick around. So we're going to start off with gear. Obviously the most important thing to magnet fishing is a magnet and a rope. At the end of this, I'm going to give some recommendations, but for now, we're going to go individually through the magnet, the rope, and some other stuff that you might need. Obviously, this right here, a magnet, this is the heart and soul of the whole thing. It's a cheaper one, it's from Amazon. It's a beginner's kit, but it was great to have when I first started out. This is about 1,400 pound double-sided, so about 700 per side, and then with the drag resistance, you're really getting like 500 to 600 pounds on one side. So this is a beginner's magnet. I wouldn't recommend it because the quality isn't as good. But you would usually start with something like that. And this is what I use now. This is a 3,800 pound 360 single-sided magnet. And this is something that I would not buy if you have no experience, because you will get it stuck and you will lose a couple $100. So let's say you go online, you order your magnet, you get a 1,400 pound double-sided one in the mail. This thing is not going to pick up as much as a 3,800 pound would, but it's going to get the job done. It's going to allow you as a beginner to learn what to do, what not to do, and your scale is going to be much more of a lower risk than starting off with a high magnet. High magnet, you have a very high risk, you need more advanced gear, and there's just a lot of things you're not going to learn by not tossing a cheaper magnet into the water. So when you first get a magnet, what you're going to want to do, usually it'll come with some thread lock. You want to take this thread lock, undo the eye. Now this one's already locked up, it's not coming off, and you will put this thread lock around the threading, and you'll let it cure for 24 hours. And once that's in there, that ensures that the eye isn't going anywhere. So the last thing you want to happen when you throw a magnet in the water is realize you have a loose eye, or you don't have thread lock on, and you lose it. So one of the things I'm concerned about today is making sure we don't lose our magnets, because that's not good for anybody. So this right here, this is more of an expensive magnet. This one is going to allow you to get very, very heavy pieces of metal. And if you don't have the right gear for that, it's not going to work out. But this is my 3,800 pound magnet, which will suck the hammer to it. This one right here is my cheaper magnet. It still works, it'll still get the job done, but you can tell just by the sound, by the force, that it's just not as strong. Big difference. Alright, but this is still gonna pull up considerable sizes of metal, so I would get something more like this. So I cannot stress how important it is to have good rope. Rope, for me, is the most important gear you'll ever own magnet fishing. If you have bad rope and you have something heavy on the line, your rope snaps, you're not getting your magnet back. This is the foundation of success when it comes to magnet fishing, is having good rope. I like to use, this is a 10mm rope. I've hauled things out of the water with this that are probably between 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. It will work, it will get the job done, and I would not skip. I would get pricey rope and a cheap magnet any day over the alternative. This right here is a great example of why we need good rope. It's a magnet one of my friends found when we were out there. And look at this stuff. This is just, looks like some rope you would get at the hardware store for hanging buoys off your dock. It's not strong, and clearly that's the case because it snapped on them. We got a free magnet. Like I said, it's not the best magnet, but like I said, it's all about the rope here. You can have whatever you want here, but if you don't have the right setup on this end, you're just not going to be keeping your magnet very long. Now, most kits are going to come with a carabiner, and this right here is going to go over the eyelid of your magnet, and most of them are going to have a safety feature, right? So you can see, I can push it in, but every time before you cast, you're going to want to check and make sure that is clipped up. So as far as some more supplementary gear or advanced gear goes, you have right here, which is a grappling hook, and this can be used for multiple things. You can attach this to the carabiner with your magnet if you're trying to get something out, or you can just go solo with it. These aren't going to fail when it comes to strength. But that's also a negative, because if you get stuck on something that's maybe 3,000 or 4,000 pounds, if you get stuck on a giant piece of rebar, you're not pulling this out. So it's something to be careful with. It's something to learn with along the way. It'll allow you to pull different things out, but there's obviously a bit of a risk to it that you don't get with a solo magnet. I would recommend a knife. My #1 use for knives are cutting ropes that get stuck to the magnet or fishing line, but this is just gonna save you a lot of trouble. I use it every time, so don't forget a knife. Another thing I would recommend is getting a bucket. Go to Home Depot, get 2 or 3 of these, they're about $2 to $3 each. This is gonna be where you put your metal. So if you're going off a bridge and you're pulling up smallest pieces of scrap metal, let's say you pull up something like this, right here. Okay, it goes in the bucket. And ideally you want to fill up the bucket so you're not leaving a mess behind. I would recommend is a come along. So when you're out there and you're using a heavier magnet, or if you're using a grappling hook and you get caught on something, there are times where you're not going to be able to pull it out with your hands. No matter what you do, it's not going to happen. So these right there, high risk, high reward. These can take off fingers if you have your fingers in here. So if you do get to come along, you're unfamiliar with them, go watch some safety videos. So what I'm doing when it comes to come along, taking a strap. All right, I'm gonna put the strap around a tree or a post or whatever I can find. And I'm gonna attach the strap to the come along, and I'm gonna attach the come along to the magnet rope. So this is something you'll probably see in some magnet fishing videos, but it's a tool that you're gonna want along the way, especially as you get into heavier magnets. And for some other miscellaneous gear, I don't have one, but you can get a wagon that kind of comes out. You can put your buckets in, because there are gonna be some spots where you might have to hike maybe 5 or 10 minutes to get to it. And you don't wanna leave your metal behind, so you need to haul it with you. So as far as safety gear goes, this is important. Gloves are the staple #1 thing that you want. You know, these guys are gonna allow you not only to prevent yourself from getting hurt, but you're going to get better grip on the rope. The difference between wearing gloves and not wearing gloves for grip strength is night and day. Stuff that feels hard to pull out will be much easier with these. You can go to the store, you can actually, if you go to the store, you can get a pair of cheaper ones like these. They fray. So you can see the cheaper ones, they fray pretty easily. Now the advantage to these is you can get like a pack of them. So if they get dirty, smelly, or full of water, you can just break out a new pair. Something a little bit more expensive, like Carhartt, they're more durable, they're more resistant, but they're gonna get dirtier and you're gonna have to be stuck with the same pair, which is fine. It's a personal preference. I said I'm gonna give you some recommendations. So I'm gonna recommend a kit. So a kit's gonna get you everything you need. You're gonna get the rub, you get the carabiner, you're gonna get the magnet, you're gonna get thread lock, and you're probably also gonna get one of these to scrape metal off of it, which I don't always use because I have gloves for that. What I use is Kratos. All right, I'm affiliated with Kratos Magnetics, and I would recommend their kits. You're buying from a brand who specializes in making magnetics, and they give you good quality things. So I do have a discount code. I'll put the link in the description. But if you want to take a look at this, there are kits, and you can scroll through them and decide what you want. For a beginner, I'm looking at a Kratos 1100 double-sided neodymium classic or the 550. I would start with the 550 or the 1100. Those are going to be great to start off with, and then as you're scrolling, you're going to notice there's some clamp magnets, and those magnets are better for throwing out and pulling in. Personally, I've never needed them or used them. I've had a lot of success with what I have, but the clamp magnets are also something that you could look into. At this point, we have all of our gear. We're ready to head out. And the first thing I want to do is put something on that's a little bit tattered. I mean, this has holes from a fishing hook. So if you want to put some shorts on that are work shorts or a dirty t-shirt, you're going to get dirty. All right, if there's anything you're going to get when it's magnet fishing, it's dirty. Not only that, but for me, I like shorts. I'm gonna get wet too, and I'm just not the kind of guy that wants to have soaking jeans, because you're gonna get a lot of your water on your knees down. Before you go out there, a lot of people are wondering, well, where do I go? Right, this is the part where a lot of personal research comes in. All right, mainly what you're gonna do is you're gonna drive around. Maybe you're on your way to work or you're on your way to school or whatever. You're gonna see a bridge and you're gonna note that down, and you're gonna say that might be a good spot to magnet fish. Rivers and bridges are my favorite. Lakes can work well too. You can go to boat launches, but a lot of it's about getting a feel for what the right place is. So you can go to Google Earth and just scout areas out, and eventually you get a feel for it. And once you get a feel for it, finding new spots is easy. So once you're out there, you're on the side of a bridge. You might think you're ready to go. Right? You got everything set up. Your safety is on. Your magnet is right. I mean, what more could you want? You're not ready to go until you tie off to the bridge. Now that you're at the bridge, you're gonna wanna tie a knot, right? And you don't have to tie some super fancy, sophisticated knot. This isn't about bearing weight. This is about preventing the rope from being taken over the bridge. You can do any knot you like. I usually just do a figure 8 follow through. All right, so I do a figure 8, you see right here, and then you just take it back through and you trace it. All right, so this is what it's gonna look like for me. Okay, it's a nice little knot. It's easy to take apart. And like I said, it's not a big deal what you use, but just get something on there so there's a little bit of tug, this doesn't go over. Before you toss it, you want to make sure you have some line laid out like this, right? Now, if you have all of your line in a pile like this and you toss it, your rope is going to snag onto itself and it's just going to come back. When it does that, you're not going to get distance and you can get the magnet stuck. I'm getting ready to toss this thing, and there's no official by the book technique. Everybody has their own way, but I'm just gonna quickly show you what I do. Both hands like this. I have a bit of a swing motion, almost like a baseball bat. All right, perfect cast. Let's check this out. Actually, this landed on a bike that I had pulled out, and it went a pretty good distance. You can see my trucks over there. You can see the line. So yeah, now that your magnet is in the water, we're going to talk about retrieval methods. And as a general rule of thumb, you're just going to want to bring it back slowly. And once you catch on to something, you're going to continue to do that. If you're going fast, you're going to miss things, right? Because your magnet, the faster you pull it, the more it's going to come up, and it's not going to hit things on the bottom of the water. So once you get something, same thing, right? It's slow but steady and surely. If you do have something on the line and you go super fast, it can break off, or you're just gonna skip right past it altogether. Slow retrieval. Some of these magnets here are going to have threading on the side, so you can put an eye loop in on this side if that's what your preference is. The magnet is going to be pulled this way as opposed to being pulled like this. But I fish a lot of bridges, so most of the things I'm getting are right under the bridges, so it's straight up and down. And I've never had any issue pulling a magnet like this. I've always gotten it, but it's 3,800 pounds, so sorry. My other one is 3,800 pounds, but typically I'm pulling 3,800 pounds, so it's just gonna stick right onto it. So there's a few situations where you would actually benefit from pulling fast. So one of them would be if you're in a spot that has a lot of rocks, a lot of other things in the water that your magnet's hooking onto, and that whatever you're grabbed onto is kind of light, you're gonna wanna pull very fast. Otherwise, your magnet or the piece of rebar that you're lashed onto is gonna get caught onto something else. So there are situations depending on the flow of the river, what's in the water, but those are some things you learn to feel out for yourself as you go along. When you're retrieving, what happens? Sometimes magnets get stuck. That's a big reason why I'm recommending a lighter magnet, because it's going to get it stuck and it's going to decrease your chances of forever losing a magnet. What are some of the most common ways magnets get stuck? One of them is just the siding of the bridge or the wall or whatever you're casting off of. So I'm going to give you an example. This is one of the most unfortunate ways to get a magnet stuck, and we're going to use my truck here as an example of the under part of a bridge. Okay, at this point, let's say you're standing right here. You throw a magnet off the bridge. Let's say your rope is bundled up like I was talking about earlier. It's going to hit the bottom of the bridge, it's going to swing backwards, and it's going to get stuck to the bottom. And there's really no great way to do this. However, there is a good way to do this. You're going to take your rope and you're going to find the heaviest piece of metal, the heaviest rock you can find in the area. And you're going to take it and you're going to tie it around the rock. You're going to stabilize it whatever way you can. You're going to throw that off. It's going to drop. The torque force alone is going to rip that magnet off. I've done it with the 3,800 pound. I've done it with this one. So that is something that I think everybody should know. Not a lot of people know how to do that. Another common thing that's going to happen, your magnet is going to get stuck on something in the water, and you're just not going to be able to pull it out by force. My go-to is always my truck. I just tie a knot to the back of my trailer hitch and I just pull. Option two, you're going to secure this end to something stable. So we're going to pretend like this rope is stable. Like this rope can pull out 4,000 pounds if it had to. So usually what I do is I'll use my strap and wrap it around a tree and then connect that. This end right here, the winch, you're gonna wanna pull out all of this. Then you will take your rope and you're gonna tie it onto the end of here. So whatever knot you wanna use, or if you wanna do just a double clove hitch, a single clove hitch, ideally don't use a knot to start with because it's very, very hard to get knots out of these ropes. So I would start off with something like a double clove hitch. And then once this thing is extended all the way and you put it on, you can start cranking slowly. Those are probably the two most common ways to get a magnet stuck to something. So if you have your come along, you're going to be able to resolve most situations. If you get it in a weird spot, try the rock method. Ultimately, at the end of the day, there are just situations where you're just going to have to try just about anything. And I do believe most of the time you can get your magnet back. It might take a couple hours, but it is doable. You've had a good day. 4 of your buckets are full, you've got everything, right? 90% of that stuff is just going to be total junk and useless. So a lot of people want to know, what do I do with the stuff? Because when I first started, I just threw it back in, which is not the way to do it. You're going to scrap it. So if you don't have the means to scrap it, you should probably stop pulling up metal once you get too much stuff. You take it to the scrapyard, you can throw it in there, and they'll give you a check for it. I made a video on that. It's a little bit of a nice way to make extra income. You do have to put a lot of work into it if you do want to make anything worth having. But scrap it. If you don't have a scrapyard near you, or you don't know how to get to one, you can always get in contact with local scrappers, put the metal in your yard, post it on Facebook Marketplace. Don't leave it there. If you, let's say you do, last resort, you do have to leave it there. Put it on Facebook Marketplace and try to start getting in contact with local scrappers so you can clean the river up, and it's not cleaning the river up if you leave it behind. Let's talk about the things you want to keep. All right, you're gonna want to preserve them, you're gonna want to clean them. So this right here is a high velocity missile. So 20 millimeter, it's a prototype from World War II. We found 170 of these. Typically, if something small like this, I would put it in rust evap, or I would put it in a solution with an electric battery to get the rust to fall off, or pressure wash it. So those are some things, some considerations you might want to have before you take it into your house. Is you're going to want to wipe it down, put it in some solution, or pressure wash it, and you're going to be able to start actually getting the metal color to it, right? I mean, this was all brown. I've cleaned all this off. This is still needs to be cleaned a bit, but I have markings, so I was able to do some research on what I have. So solution, pressure washing, and wiping down are the best things you can do after you get your things. So you have your things, you take them to the junkyard, anything you want to keep, you scrap, and you put them wherever you want to put them. At this point, you have a pretty good idea what to do, okay? You know what gear to use, where to go, how to throw it in, how to retrieve, and what to do with the things that you found. And this is going to be a great base to start off with. Now, I probably haven't covered everything people want to hear. That's why I'm going to be responding to the comments. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, just drop them below, and I'm going to get right back to you. At the end of the day, though, it's a great hobby. It can be a little dangerous, but it's a lot of fun. You can make money doing it, and overall, all right, so I just want to say thanks to everybody who watched the video. Obviously, it helps a lot if anybody can comment, like, subscribe, or whatever. But thanks for tuning in. It's been a great time. I enjoyed sharing this stuff with you. And we're on to the next video.